Welcome into Around the Felt. We're going to be doing the Baltimore Raven season recap for 2024, and we're also going to be getting into, what they can do in 2025 to, finally get over the hump, maybe make the Super Bowl, and hey, maybe even win a Super Bowl with their two-time MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson. Here with me tonight, I got my co-host Colin, and we got Baltimore Ravens superfan Mr. Chad. How we doing tonight, boys?
Doing great. Chad, good to have you on, my friend. Chad's been a felter for a very long time. We appreciate all the banter that we get from Chad in the comments.
Yeah, it's great to be on the pod finally. Damn, I'm lagging pretty bad. But anyways, it's exciting to be on. Yeah, we should probably. Yeah, we're lagging so much.
Yeah, maybe we
He's
should.
Like, there it goes. It's gone now.
We're good to go now. But hey, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. A 12-5 season, kind of what you expect with Lamar Jackson at the helm and John Harbaugh leading the team. The offense was phenomenal. The defense was great. I mean, the back end was a little shaky at the beginning, but hey, they got to the postseason. They won a playoff game, but they lost a heartbreaker to Buffalo. Took a slight step back from last year. So, Chad, I ask you, what grade did you give your Baltimore Ravens for the 2024 season?
I would definitely say probably around a B to a B plus. I think the second half, like you mentioned, with the defense finally turning it on, I just think the secondary play, especially at the beginning, was a little iffy. And then finally, just making a shakeup. They had Kyle Hamilton trying out different positions at the beginning part of the year, and then finally solidified basically with their methodology for the back half. And I think that really helped them. I think I'd give it a B also. I think on the offensive side, having Derrick Henry really helped out. Lamar and Derrick Henry are like just perfect for each other. One's going to be that smash mouth guy that's going to run you over, while Lamar's going to be able to throw for 40 touchdown passes and run 900 yards. First guy to ever do it. I think that they're just perfect for each other, and I think that's what's going to help them just continue to do well on the offensive side, no matter who's catching the ball.
Let me hop in here. I'm going to give my letter grade. And Chad, you might not like this, but you know what? I got to say it anyway, and maybe I'm being a hater, but I'm giving this team a C-.
Whoa, dude. Yeah. Whoa. They won 12 games. They won a playoff game.
I don't care.
Based off of by 2.
Based off of expectations, this was a step back. This is a team that hasn't been able to get over the hump. Last year, they're in the AFC Championship game. Really close. A couple boneheaded mistakes. You could point to, Zay Flowers and some of the mistakes he made and all that stuff.
Well,
but then you don't even make it. Yeah, and then you don't even make it back to the AFC Championship game. You don't get the 1 seed this year, which is fine. I'm not going to knock them for that. But to take a step back and not even get back to the AFC Championship game when you have an MVP caliber quarterback, you bring in Derrick Henry, which obviously adds a whole nother dynamic to your offense that you haven't had in the past, and you still take a step back. I don't care. And then in the playoffs, you make a couple mistakes early in that first half this year that just essentially cost you the game. It was nice on the defense in the second half that they were able to basically shut down the Bills completely, but it was too late. And I'm not even going to sit here and go the easy route, the casual route, and be like, look, if Mark Andrews catches that 2-point conversion, then they probably win that game. It was a long game with a lot of mistakes, and ultimately Baltimore did have a good season, but there was a lot of points in the year where it just seemed like they, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, it took them a while to wake up in this season. So for me, it's C-, man. And, a lot of teams would kill for that, but where Baltimore's been at with who their head coach is and how much success, we've seen with them over the years, eventually you got to get over the hump. So yeah, I'm being critical, but coming into the year, you could have made a case that, they had the best chance to come out of the AFC, an even better chance than the Chiefs, because on paper, you could say they have the best roster in the AFC. Would you guys say someone else there's a better team on paper than the Ravens right now in the AFC?
I would probably agree with you there. Yeah, I think so. They're a better team, in totality, than Kansas City. It's just Patrick Mahomes has the clutch gene.
Yeah, and you could say Patrick Mahomes has the clutch gene, but ultimately the Ravens do have a 2-time MVP at their quarterback.
Could be 3 times.
And that's fine. That's fine. I agree with you. He should have won the MVP this year because if you are, all pro, I don't know how, if you're the best quote unquote quarterback in the league, then how the hell did Josh Allen beat you for it? But that's whatever. We're not here to talk about that. So maybe I'm a hater, but I'm sorry. To me, based off expectations, it was a step back this year.
No, I totally get that. I think that it definitely sucks that Lamar just can't get over that hump. I think he just tries to play hero ball, and I think that's what ultimately ends up having him shoot himself in the foot. I will say, though, with Monken now as the OC, he's done exceptionally better in the playoffs. I mean, look at Herbert this last year with Greg Roman as his offensive coordinator. I mean, he looked like he was seeing ghosts out there, like Sam Darnold would say.
Yeah.
And you look at that. That's what Lamar had to deal with his first.
Had to get a jet stick in there.
Hey, but I'm waiting for Lamar to win that Super Bowl so he can, Reagan can finally crown him as the best quarterback in the league.
I don't know. I mean, I give a lot of love to Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So
that you do.
At the very least, I'd put him above Josh Allen and Joe Burrow for certain. But I'd already say he is there in my books. I got him at 3. Don't worry, I got him at 3.
Oh, geez. We're not going to go to war here on arguing who's a better player, Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts. We've already had our battles. Lamar Jackson's a better player. All right, my grade for the Ravens was a flat B. You lost. It's hard to knock a team losing by 2 points to Buffalo in the divisional round, but the reality of the situation is you did take a step back. You were in the AFC Championship game last year, and let's be honest, that game plan they had was disgustingly bad. Like, they didn't run the ball at all. It was pathetic, right? So you were hoping this year they would learn from their mistakes and get another crack at Kansas City. Just the chips didn't fall their way. They didn't get it done. Some positives. I mean, Zay Flowers, I thought, took a step forward in year 2. I was really happy to see that. I think he's a really solid player. I don't know if he's going to be an alpha number 1, considered a top 10 receiver ever in his career, but I think you're really comfortable with him right now as your number 1 and potentially a damn good number 2. You got to tip the cap to Rashad Bateman. Just took him a while to figure it out, but a guy you took in the first round in Minnesota a couple years back.
And staying healthy helps.
Yeah, and staying healthy certainly helps, but Bateman was great. So, you look at that offense and that offensive line, I know they're going to have a little bit of turnover here potentially, but, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, just a match made in heaven. I think you could argue the greatest rushing duo from a quarterback running back position in NFL history.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Eagles one was pretty good too, but yeah.
Yeah, but Lamar is better.
Doesn't count as something good.
But yeah, I mean, you could argue Saquon and Hurts are number 2. You could certainly say that, but I'm still going to give the nod to Lamar and Henry. All positives, right? But they're all regular season positives. What happened in the postseason? You fell short, and ultimately that's what matters for a team like the Baltimore Ravens, where it's a similar conversation we have with Josh Allen. At what point can Lamar Jackson get over the hump? And that's really what we're going to grade their season on at this point, where they are as a team, who they have leading the team. That's what it comes down to. It's a B. It's, they won 12 games. They won a playoff game. It's a B.
I think you're just afraid of the comments. You don't want Chad's boys who are going to watch this coming at you for like, they're going to be coming at me, but they're not going to come at you. Oh, B. You're afraid. You're afraid.
Yeah, I got some leeway. I can go B minus.
It's a little high. That's a little high, bro. That's a little high.
It's a solid B. It's above average.
I don't even know if Ravens. I don't think if you ask many Ravens fans, they're even giving him a B on this season.
I don't know. I think these last 2 years have definitely been their window, sort of say. I mean, you even look at those early years with Lamar when he was on his rookie contract. That first year, 2019, they were electric, but you could just tell like the inexperience. I mean, no dig at Mark Ingram, but like that can't be your number 1 running back, especially for a team that's trying to win the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like every team has to have a good running back, it seems like. And I just think he wouldn't be that guy. And I mean, you can't have a rookie Hollywood Brown be your number 1 receiver, right? I think there's a lot of things that I think that's why these past 2 years have really been their best chance. I mean, you had Jadeveon Clowney resurgence last year, and I think that helped a lot. I know we're going to get to it later, but I think that's something that the Ravens need to work on. It's just solidifying, getting that defense as good as it was in 2019 while doing it for cheap now that you're paying Lamar, millions of dollars,
Yeah.
Good
No, and
defense.
that defense was still, I mean, they were 9th in scoring, 10th in total. They were still the number 1 run defense after letting Patrick Queen walk and go to the division rival, right? So, Matabike in the middle and Roquan Smith, like you got some dudes up front, but you could certainly add to that as you're mentioning. And the back of the defense, it's like Marlon Humphrey was a dog. I mean, maybe he started off a little slow. Humphrey was a dog. Hamilton's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Williams going to be a free agent, right? So I think they need to address the secondary going in the offseason. Why don't we just get into it now? They got $12.5 million to play with here. Ronnie Stanley, free agent. I'm hearing rumblings that Stanley already has a deal worked out with Baltimore. It's a pretty reliable guy on Twitter, but he's got a dog as his logo. So you wouldn't think so, but he's pretty reliable. His name's Ricky. He's pretty reliable. He tweeted out earlier today before the Crosby deal, just a gif of Mark Davis. An hour later, boom, massive Crosby deal. And he's saying
start doing that, and then he's saying considered reliable.
He's
like the fuck does that?
Oh, hey, when the Stanley deal gets done, gents, we're gonna talk about it. All right.
So you're saying if I post a John
Baltimore
Harbaugh gift now and he signs the deal tomorrow, I'm considered a reliable source?
Well, you're just taking Ricky sloppy seconds. It doesn't really work like that.
Why? He already posted his John Harbaugh gift.
No, he didn't post a Harbaugh gift, but it was a Ronnie.
Pause the pod, Dave.
It was a different meme. It was a different meme, and it was like Ronnie Stanley's gonna be back. So I'm under the impression here that Stanley's gonna be back as your left tackle. It was good that he was finally healthy. So you guys gave him a massive deal years ago, and it felt like he missed half of the contract.
Yeah, but even when he was playing earlier, it just seemed like he didn't have that step like he did before all the injuries. And thank God he finally got back to form. I wrote down in my notes, that's one thing I want the Ravens to do is just at least re-sign Ronnie Stanley. They've been doing a really good job getting guys, it seems like later in the draft, kind of day 2 guys at O-line, which I think is another good thing that they should do this year. I mean, EDC usually does a really good job in the draft, so I got all the faith in the world that he'll find some dogs later in the draft.
Yeah, and, if you're going to bring back Stanley, it seems like Patrick McCarry might be out the door here. So they're going to have some holes to fill in that offensive line.
Yeah.
And, Patrick Ricard, I'm sure he's beloved by Ravens fans. He's also a free agent. He fits the mold of a Raven. He plays his role very well for that team. Do you think they bring him back?
I think it's one of those things where you got to set a firm price and tell them if you want anything above this, you got to walk. But what other team's going to really use him? You know what I mean? What other teams running a power offense like that? I mean,
no, he is the perfect fit for the offense for what they want to do. So it almost seems like they're going to get something done. But you don't have a lot of cap space to play with. So if you're going to start looking some external free agents here, you're probably going to have to backload some of that money.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't know. There's just so many teams that don't use fullbacks. I think they'll be able to get them on a pretty fair deal. Like, there's not really, you can't really walk at the fullback position.
USAC's like, no, fuck you. I want 6. And they're like, dude, where are you going to go to get and play very much? You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Yeah. There's like Miami, San Fran, Oakland. Like, there's not a ton of teams that actually use a fullback anymore.
You say Oakland?
Yeah, they had Alec Ingold there for a while. I guess he's on Miami
Vegas.
now.
You mean Vegas?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
shit.
Chad. My co-host is a dumbass. It's fine.
No, I think also it's just tough because, I mean, you still got to re-sign, Kyle Hamilton, which I think that's someone you got to keep. I know a lot of Ravens fans love him. And, I mean, if he can just stay there for a while, I mean, like you said, you have him – I mean, that just solidifies everything on the back end. I mean, he's like the biggest rover that can play any position. He can come down and play linebacker. He's not the best man-to-man coverage, but, man, you slot him up against a Travis Kelce or Brock Bowers-esque. I mean, it's going to be shut down almost the whole game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know how you would let him walk. I mean, you can't let him walk. And the fact that the Ravens were even able to draft him, it just speaks to, what the safety position has become. Because normally a guy like that, with how big of an impact he has, should not go that far. And
he was a top 5 talent, top 3 talent,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing with the Ravens, dude. They always have someone fall in their laps, it seems like, where it's like, God damn it, similar with the Eagles, I think, like two teams that just always get a player that it's like that he should not be there where he is. And of course, he's going to go to a good team. And of course, he's going to be good and live up to that draft status.
Yeah, I mean, look at Tyler Lindenbaum, too, at center. I mean, he's a guy, late first-round draft pick. And, I mean, he's now solid.
But that was when the Giants had 5 and 7, and I wanted Linderbaum at 7. They took Evan Neal. They took the tackle. Given positional value, it made sense at the time. Looking back, oh, my God, I would love to have Linderbaum instead of fucking Evan Neal.
Yeah, but he'd be Linderbaum if he was on the Giants. Like he would not. I don't know, man. Some teams, it's just like, they would not be what they are.
He would suck.
He'd probably have like 3 torn ACLs at MetLife already.
Yeah, exactly. And what's his name on Don LaGreca would be calling him
Boo his fat ass.
Linderbaum, boo his fat ass.
Well, the Ravens got pick 27 here. You know, we're going to talk about who we think they should take, what positions. But let's be honest, someone's going to fall in their lap that shouldn't be there, and they're going to pounce. But, Chad, what are you thinking at pick 27? Positions, any guys strike your interest right now?
And this is a lot of Nebraska bias for me, but I really think that they should take I don't know if you guys know him, Ty Robinson. He's a D tackle, but man, oh man, did he have himself a day. I believe he ran, I think, a 4.8 at 6'7", 288 pounds as a D tackle. I want to say he was 4th for D tackles on the bench press with 28-ish. I'm just pulled it up, but according to the RAS, the relative athletic score, he scored a 9.84, which will put him at 30th out of 1,834 defensive tackles since 1987. I mean, this is a guy.
Peak athlete.
Yeah, this is a guy who.
Not a beat guy.
Yeah, he was 6'5", 288. He benched 28 reps. His vertical was 33.5 inches. His broad was really good. His 40-yard dash, 4.83. So, I mean, just all-around talent. He's a little bit on the older side. He was a 6th year this year. And it's one of those things where going before the combine, I thought he'd be someone that you could snatch up in the 2nd or 3rd round maybe. But I think after that impressive performance, he might be worth it to take in the late 1st round. I mean, it's one of those things where if you could stack him up the middle or even try to turn him into more of a power rusher on the side, maybe shed a little bit more weight and just get a little bit quicker. He's got those long arms that I think it could just do damage. And with the cap space issue, you got to be able to find an elite pass rusher somehow or some way, or an elite corner, which I just think it's going to be easier to find a big body D lineman that you can work with, because that's just, I feel like, so much easier to work with than drafting a corner.
I feel like there's probably some good value on that too. I mean, for you gamblers out there, even, I mean, by the time it comes, I mean, a lot will change, but, every year you see teams that maybe from a fan perspective, it's a reach, but, as you said, he had a great combine. So I'm sure, as the draft gets closer, this is a guy that's going to move up the board. A guy I kind of liked for them, and now I don't think there's a chance in hell he'll be there, but before the combine.
Shamar Stewart.
No, I was saying
that would have been money, but Shamar Stewart's going way earlier than 27.
No, I was saying Mike Green from Marshall, but I think point, he's gonna go way earlier. So I don't know. For me, I would like to see them get an edge just with how old their D-line has gotten. I mean, and Badamike is more on the interior. So and Kyle Van Noy, I mean, he's still at 12.5 sacks, but I would imagine he is not the future. With him at his age.
He's getting it done. He loves that scheme,
He keeps
man.
getting
he
it
loves
done.
it.
But I would say, I wouldn't hate if they go Nick Scorton if he's there, or take Jalen Walker if he's there. I mean,
Jalen Walker will not be there. No shot. He's mocked in top 15 every mock I see.
Yeah, well, guess what? I mean, anything's possible. We see players slip every year. I mean, James Pierce out of Tennessee, I don't hate either.
Oh, that's one that I really can get behind. Pierce, the only reason he would be there is due to the character concerns. I was seeing shit on Twitter, some people from Tennessee, I had class with this guy. He is a nut. Like that was the problem with him. It was never the talent. He was a 5-star recruit, one of the top high school players in the country, and he has all the athletic tools, but just never seemed to find the consistency and figure it out off the field. Where if you go to a organization like Baltimore that's been as good as they've been for this long, has an established leader in John Harbaugh and some other dudes on that defense that are vets that have been all pros, I think James Pierce honestly might be the number one target in my mind for Baltimore. That's a great call.
Thanks. That's what I do.
Just to go back to kind of the, we were talking about some freak athletes. The safety out of South Carolina, Nick Emanwari, had a nasty combine too. And, with a guy like Marcus Williams, a free agent, don't think he'll be back. And given how slow your pass defense started last season, you got Humphrey and you got Hamilton you're really comfortable with. But other than that, you can add some pieces back there. So just another guy in the back end I think can make sense. I know I say Malachi Starks for a lot of teams, but he just makes sense too for a lot of teams with his versatility on the back end. I think he's going to be available in those late 20s, maybe even early day 2. So, there's some guys that kind of strike my interest. But, yeah, that call, Reagan, Pierce, woo, that makes a lot of sense for me.
Yeah, I mean, I also could see them going O-line as well. I mean,
yeah, they just could always retool. A guy like Kelvin Banks from Texas, if he's there, tackle guard flexibility. I think he's starting to slide a little bit. You got a couple tackles from Ohio State that could make sense. But
between Simmons and
Donovan Jackson, who played their right tackle.
Yep.
Yeah, he was their right. No, I think Donovan Jackson. Yeah, I think Donovan Jackson was their right tackle. So
yeah, I mean, I know I think he's going in as a guard first, but I mean, I definitely feel like if they do go O-line, they're going to go with one of those guard tackles for the flexibility.
Mm-hmm. I think that would make a lot of sense. All right, let's get Drock in here for some questions.
God, I love the Oakland Raiders. Don't you guys love them so much?
I'm sure you like the Vegas Raiders a lot more in your city.
Yeah. All right.
First question. I got it, Reagan.
First question from Walmart. Give one of your off-season moves for the Ravens that would take the team over the hump for next year, for this year.
One off-season move that could get them over the hump. It's like, it's a team that's similar to me, like the Bills, where it's like you seem like you have the pieces, you just got to execute. You know what I mean? Taking James Pierce at 27, is that? Does that play?
I think a huge one. I know it's obviously really not realistic, and I feel like it happens with every big name wide receiver that asks for a trade or is on the market. But getting like a DK Metcalf.
Oh yeah.
Imagine that three-headed monster of DK, Lamar, and Derrick Henry. I mean, that's
just physical specimens all over the place.
Yeah, because you got to stack the box to stop Lamar and Derrick Henry, and then who's gonna match up with DK on a one-on-one?
And Zay Flowers, and
Bateman,
still Andrews, likely.
Andrews and likely. I mean, that's a great dude. That's unreal. That's unreal.
Hey, I like the route you're going, but I'm going to go a cheaper route in which you can keep pick number 27. How about Davante Adams? The Jets still got to pay him a lot of money. What if Davante wants to play for a winner? I know I'm seeing a lot of smoke. He wants to go to the West Coast, but what if Lamar calls him up? He's like, yo, Davante, let's get over the hump here. Come to Baltimore. Join me and Derrick Henry, and let's go win a Super Bowl. I think if Lamar shouted him out, you could get him for a much cheaper deal.
And then you bring in a winning quarterback to take over too, and Rodgers. So you pair a Super Bowl winning quarterback with that roster.
Then you actually put Lamar.
I guess that's how you get over the hump. Yeah,
that's what you do. You bring in Rodgers. On your left is Lamar. On your right is Derrick Henry. You put Lamar in his real position, then you guys just start running triple option.
And that's how you get over the hump.
But in all seriousness, Davante Adams, if Lamar Jackson calls him, it's a vet receiver that could do really well for the development of Zay Flowers and Bateman as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely, I feel like the offense is there. I mean, I wouldn't, even with all those weapons, maybe you go out and get an offensive lineman. I would say it really comes down to them just getting another elite edge rusher, someone nice in the secondary. I don't know if there's one player for say, because ultimately, DK would be nice and Davante Adams would be nice, but I don't think that's what's holding them back from getting to the next level. I think it just comes down to Lamar stepping up a little bit more.
I agree with that, yeah.
Maybe there is one defensive piece. There's no one I could point to that I think pushes him over the top. I think it ultimately just comes down to Lamar improving his play because it's the only way. Or I guess if Patrick Mahomes, misses a game or something. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think that's what, and it's the same with the Bills. It's like, I don't know if there's a piece they're missing, and the same with the Bengals. It's just like, you just got to outplay Mahomes, I guess, or the defense has got to, do similar to what Philadelphia did and Tampa Bay did and just make them uncomfortable. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, on that defensive side, I was going to say, I like a guy like Darius Slay, if you can get him for cheap. I think that would be good, but I don't know if that's going to push him over the hump, kind of like a DK or Davante Adams. I think, man, you just look at how tough it was for Lamar. I remember, I think towards the end of the season, I don't know if it's stuck, but it was like if Lamar didn't have over a 120 passer rating, the Ravens lost every game. And so I think it's one of those things where, they really do ride or die with Lamar. And that's why I think he should have won the MVP again, man. Like, he had a top 4 passer rating all time. I mean, 40 passing touchdowns, over 40 passing touchdowns, 4 picks, 900 yards rushing. And I get he had Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry had his most efficient year just because he had Lamar handing him the ball instead of Ryan Tannehill. It just makes him so much more dynamic. And I don't know if it means getting another offensive playmaker to make it even more dynamic, or just trying to beef up the defense, kind of like the Chiefs ended up deciding to do, and just make sure you're a defensive first team and then let your quarterback do what he's got to do to win you the game late. So.
All right, last question for you guys for the Ravens. Is Zay Flowers a legit wide receiver, or should the Ravens look to add another weapon?
Yeah,
no, he's not legit.
I think
he's definitely not legit.
He's legit. Is he going to be a top 10 guy at any point of his career? I don't know. I kind of think of him more in that 10 to 20 range.
Really?
At his not right now. Like at his peak.
I was going to say, I'm like, I don't know about yet.
I could argue he's like in that 15 to 20. He's certainly not that top 15.
I would say 15 to 20 as of right now. But I think you give him another year to do what he did last year. I think he'll be solid. And I mean, keep in mind, you got Bateman, who went crazy with the touchdowns. Obviously not as much yards, but with the touchdowns, again, the team's going to be at least top 3 in rushing every year. So he's not going to they're not going to need him to put up 1,500 yards a year like Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle's going to need to do in Miami. So I think that Zay Flowers could be a very, very, very legit Ravens wide receiver 1, in the sense that they don't need him to be, Justin Jefferson. They don't need him to be Jamar Chase, where Joe Burrow's going to have to throw for over 4,500 yards a year, because that's not what they need. So I think he's great where he's at.
That's valid.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know. I feel like no matter who the Ravens get, like, I just don't see him putting up the numbers to ever be considered in that top 10 threshold. Like, the way this system's set up, Lamar's going to use his legs a lot. They're going to have a running back in place that's going to get a lot of touches. I mean, we've seen it. Like, obviously, Derrick Henry's taken them to another level, but it seems like all the running backs they've had have been pretty dynamic. Like, even, Keaton Mitchell 2 years ago had a lot of juice we saw. And, I know you talked about Mark Ingram, but he definitely had some juice when he was there. Who else? Who are some of the other guys they've had in recent memory? Gus Bus. It does seem like
JK before the injuries.
Right. So it does seem like no matter who they've put in back there, they've definitely showed that they got some juice. I mean, not Derrick Henry level, but, competent enough. So I think, with Lamar and his legs and, just the fact that they have 2 dynamic tight ends and, who knows how much more Mark Andrews has got left. But with Likely in the helm, I just don't know. And I still think there's a world that, Likely ends up developing over the next year or 2 into his number 1, like Andrews was, early in Lamar's career. So I still think there's a chance where, we look at it 2 years from now and it's like, no, Zay Flowers isn't Lamar's number 1 target. It's actually Isaiah Likely.
I'm a big fan of Likely.
I was going to say, I like Likely as more of like that slot kind of guy. I don't see him as a true 7 personnel or like heavy box personnel in the sense that he's not going to block crazy just because he's not a big set guy, kind of like Mark Andrews is, where you can throw Andrews and Ricard on the line and you basically have an extra 1.5 linemen right there, because Likely just isn't that size. And I think putting him on the side as an interior guy and doing some sort of crossers with him and Andrews, I mean, that could be a nightmare for safeties and linebackers to deal with.
I agree
for
with
sure.
That. Absolutely.
For sure. I think we're good, fellas.
Yeah, that wraps up our Ravens recap. Hey, hit our comments. What should the Ravens do at 27? What's it going to take for this team to get over the hump, get to a Super Bowl? What does Lamar need to do? Hey, Chad, appreciate you hopping on, my friend. It was a great time. Any last words?
Just always remember to slam it, boys.
Yeah, let's go.